top stack clean. And that usually is because the reed isn't quite right. Getting a little scungy, isn't sitting on there properly. See if that helps. Yeah. Just make a noise. So that's all I do anymore. It's just pick a key, pick a phrase, pick at it, and then move on to the next one. I suppose if somebody gave me enough incentive, I'd actually learn a tune or two. I got no incentive to do that. What I can do, though, is walk up to anybody with the flute or the horn and be able to play with them. As long as they take the time to tune up to the horn, and I can match their notes, we're good to go. No, I need some more water. I bought a set of steel straws. Let me see, I wonder if, I'm sure I will be able to. Oh yeah, I can get the kitchen. I actually, I have a 10-foot cable, extension cable for the camera. I can get closer to the kitchen. And then we definitely could tune in on the work table. Cool. I'm kind of semi-retired at this point. You know, I'm gonna play a little more, and maybe then I'll talk some. So I should really stand up. I'm kind of constricted, especially sitting in a chair with arms. And sort of take a long break and listen to other people play for a while. I'm getting a little hot in here. I need a better ending for that. Well, anyway. So it's about a year since the pandemic started. I feel like I've aged 5. I got an extra 10 pounds. I'm afraid to even look at the scale. I know I gauge my weight by how my clothes fit. You notice I'm wearing sweatpants right now. Most everything's too tight. Well, so my new digs has a lot of advantages over the old place. It's smaller, which I think is going to work to my favor. It's going to be much easier to keep clean, keep up with, because it is smaller. And I think the doors are going to hold dust out better. The other place was just like shit would blow through it all the time, even with the doors closed. It's a nicer neighborhood, much nicer neighborhood. I haven't seen any dopers to speak of or homeless people anywhere nearby. But I don't know. I really need to concentrate more on my art than politics. That's what I need to do. I have a small loyal following and a small disloyal following. And I'm really not going to be giving the disloyal following much like attention until I surprise them with this suit that they've been threatening for so many years. I really need to go after Facebook. This is getting out of hand. Where this fucking asshole is able to get me shut down for like, dude attacked me, and I got blocked for saying save it for your defense, stalker. We're gonna have to have a talk with Facebook in front of the judge about that. That's the same person that keeps doing it too. Now I'm complaining they don't respond. YouTube doesn't respond to anything either. I have to, you send a DMCA takedown request and they take it down, but then if the person counter claims then and you don't sue them, it goes right back up. So I haven't bothered there either, and they're totally non-responsive. Even when I get multiple people to report shit sometimes, and they don't respond to any of it. They really fucked up the internet when they gave it away to the phone companies, the utility carriers, and companies like Yahoo and AOL and Google and the rest of them popped up. Anyway. But I got all this nice stone, and the gem show is coming up in April, which is good. So I'll have all this time to sit here. I'm gonna do a lot of wrapping between now and April. Basically, I have a lot of stone that needs to be finished polishing. I have a fair bit of rough to work. That's mainly what I'm going to focus on. Is I'm not going to spend so much time with the news and commentary this year. It's just not happening. And I'm definitely not going to mix it up with idiots, redundant idiots. Excuse me. 40 years ago, I had contact with a teen that was underage, and she was not harmed by it. End of discussion. She invited me into the bed she was already in with my partner of the time, and she was not harmed. She's now a grandmother, so fuck off with that shit. Oh, what else to say? I mean, these people are just projecting their own dementia at me. Yeah, I'm old, but I'm happy. I've survived. And yeah, I survived by sucking off Uncle Scam's tit, but they did that to me. They put a bullet in my back and then declared me unemployable. So fuck that. I took their money and created real things with it. And I've done a lot of good for a lot of people in a lot of places for a lot of years. So fuck off with that shit too. I'm going to take their stimulus and I'm going to upgrade my tooling. I've already been. I got some help moving, so I had my whole check this month to spend on myself, which was really nice. I had a couple $100 in bills I needed to pay, and that was it. So like $800 for me. I've hardly even dented that yet, because I'm holding out for a flat lap. It's going to be a little under $500 for a flat lap. I need to hunt around for a trim saw too, and a torch set. I want to check though, because I might be able to get the gas company to install a what would you call that? a nozzle for a torch. I might be able to get them to put that out and back. I'm talking to the landlord about putting some water back there. I'll just plug a screw-in receptacle into the light socket. Hopefully it'll be able to handle the juice. So, well, I don't usually run more than one machine at one time anyway. So I guess there you have it. Well, that's not where I wanted to be. Let's share this and try to get that. I was reading a biography of Don Knotts. He was a very wonderful comic. And he came from a dysfunctional family. Interesting character. He had an interesting service career during the war. He was had a little show that he was like, what did they call it? He was in the army from June of 1943 to January 1946, but he was in a variety show thing, entertaining troops that he called the act Stars and Gripes. So it looks like I'm calling another one pretty clear on, and that's that the incoming administration's foreign policy is going to be business as usual for the war toys industry. They're making no bones about doing anything different with Iran or any of them. We've been quiet about Venezuela so far, but he's they invited Guaido to the inauguration. They cut off Syria or the Saudi Arabia's arms sales, and keep an eye on that because they just put it under review. you know that we need to retool for peace. This was something that Dwight Eisenhower failed to get the military-industrial complex to do during his administration, and it's what they killed. A big part of what they killed John Kennedy for is that if you're going to make things that blow up, you're going to make guns and weapons and bombs and shit like that, you have to have something to use it on. You can't be just stockpiling the stuff forever. You have to, if you're going to keep the companies in business, you got to keep blowing the shit up. And until we retool those companies for peacetime technologies that aren't for blowing people up, we're going to have war. And as long as people are stupid enough to sign up and volunteer to go kill people, go commit mass murder for, this was an interesting piece. I should read this. This was a very interesting piece. Let's find it. Modern America works longer with less vacation than medieval peasants, but that's not the one. Here we go. From neoliberalism to necrocapitalism. This is by Mark Levine in Al Jazeera from last July. Capitalism and race. However you slice it, the coronavirus pandemic has revealed their insidious umbilical relationship, especially in the United States, where the racialized nature of its spread and impact has made the routine brutality of American racism suddenly intolerable. But you guys stormed the Capitol and shit. That just didn't go over real well. But the responses to the gross inequalities laid bare by the present crisis too often focus on a narrow issue, neoliberalism, rather than seek their deeper roots. Whether it is academia or think tanks, Haaretz or The Guardian, Noam Chomsky or Naomi Klein, or myriad progressive international NGOs, all have put the blame on neoliberalism, hoping that coronavirus spells the end of the neoliberal order and the uniquely American virus that is neoliberalism. But the focus on the neoliberal present is literally misplaced, for the current system is merely the latest iteration of a 500-year-old matrix of forces that continues to shape the modern world today. I'd say it's more like 1,500 years old. Like an invasive plant, this system must be dealt with at the roots, not the newest leaves. And the roots of the present crisis lie deep in the unfolding of capitalism, in the morphology of the nation state, and in the generative disorder of colonialism that is fertilized in both. And feudalism is another word that needs to be thrown in here, is this European-style religious nationalism. It's a feudal, elitist oligarchy that's in constant competition with each other for world domination. This has been going on, they're saying 500 years. It's real easy to see the bloody footprints of families like the Rothschilds and Morgans and DuPonts and de Medicis and Borgias and who's the Dutch guys, the De Beers and Guggenheims. It's easy to see their footprints and Cecil Rhodes. It's easy to see, and let us not forget Lord Balfour. it's real easy to see the bloody footprints of these people for the last 500 years, because the archives haven't been like too badly buried in shit. But there are authors that claim that the same families, same bloodlines have been at this shit since the time of Nimrod and Cyrus and Hiram. And really nothing significant has changed about civilization beyond this sophistication of the methodology of population management and the efficacy of the implements of mass murder. Everything else is pretty much the same. It's like fear conditioning the public to hate themselves, hate each other, and obey an authority. And here we are at this necrocapitalism stage that is being pointed out by Mark Levine here. For centuries, violence has been a tool, but not always the preferred or even most efficient one, to ensure the productivity and profitability of the capitalist matrix. Equally crucial to its smooth functioning has been what French philosopher Michel Foucault famously described as its biopolitics, a quintessentially modern political rationality that organized and administered modern population to ensure, sustain, and multiply human life. This is where the sex-gender binary comes from, because they had people separated for years at a time on military exploits. And the chattels, breeding populations, segregated because of foreign wars. The purpose of modern biopolitical order is to create citizens and slaves, workers and soldiers, mothers and sons, who are malleable enough to function efficiently in the ever-evolving capitalist system. Foucault believed modern biopolitics suffers from the paradox of a racism that society directs against itself. In reality, racial capitalism is not a paradox. Rather, it's the coding that explains why the modern ordering and administering of human life has always relied upon so much violence and death to function efficiently. Cameroonian critical theorist Akili Mbembe first described the role of extreme violence in the functioning of larger biopolitical order as necropolitics. Not merely a state's right to kill and to organize people to be killed as opposed to live, but to expose them to extreme violence and death and reduce entire segments of population to the barest and most precarious existence, all in order to preserve the established economic and political hierarchies of the capitalist system. Bio and necropolitics cannot exist without each other, but the specific imbalance between them depends on the particularities of racial capitalism and ethno-nationalism in each country. Two dynamics have always ensured a far more central place for necropolitics in the capitalist system than most realize. The first is what Peruvian theorist Aníbal Quijano termed the coloniality of power, which ensures that the same violent, racialized, and necropolitical dynamics at the heart of colonial governments are adopted in both the metropoles and the post-colonies after formal decolonization. Gosh, there must be an easier way to say that. Same crooks end up in charge. The second aggravating factor in the imbalance between bio and necropolitics in most societies is the reality that modern states and governing structures have from the start shared the same DNA as large-scale criminal enterprises or rackets, whose power comes from extorting money, resources, and loyalty from communities in return for protection from internal and external threats, which more often than not they created or exacerbated. The more wealth and power are concentrated in a society, the more racial and other exclusivist discourses will be deployed, and the more criminal its government system and ultimately the society will become, as German philosopher Max Horkheimer first diagnosed it. The inherently criminal dynamics of modern governance in a capitalist system rest on a relationship of dependency between ruler and ruled, in which those in power both protect and at the same time exploit their clients. This is why authoritarian governments are often described as mafia states. As important, when combined with the other repressive function of the state to wage war, what American sociologist Charles Tilly termed war making and state making, became simultaneously the highest form of organized crime and the purest form of governance. While the Trump crime family sure budged it. Thankfully. They tried to make America go to war against itself. And that was an error. It wasn't just total idiots either. There were there were white collar workers there, company owners, in that crowd. People who had more than nothing to lose because they were dipshits living in their mother's basement eating organic shaman food. Anyway, after the intensely necropolitical era of European high imperialism, American expansionism, and 2 world wars, the pendulum swung toward a more pronounced and productive period of biopolitics in the era of decolonization, which accompanied the unprecedented rise in, come on, quit jumping around on me, rise in and distribution of material prosperity in the West, and produced a type of governance that economists often derisively referred to as cuddly capitalism. This dynamic was not to last, however. By the 1970s, technological advances, the reawakening of free market orthodoxy, and the rise of neoconservative political and cultural ideologies produced the neoliberal order now blamed for much of the world's ills. In the global South, such policies were experienced from the start as a form of neocolonialism. But given the coloniality of power at the heart of neoliberalism, it is not surprising that even in advanced capitalist societies, neoliberal economic policies produced macroeconomic growth concentrated among increasingly narrow segments of society, while corruption, inequality, and criminalized poverty grew significantly, exacerbated by intensified structural racism that undid much of the gains of the previous era, because it was encouraged. This guy was inciting from the podium. And now he's trying to deny it. By the turn of this century, a new kind of necropolitics emerged out of this dynamic, what I term necroliberalism. Maybe we're going to get into the cancel culture, the shame and blame games of the oppression Olympics of the neoliberal fascists. A necropolitics justified by neoliberal market orthodoxies, the war on terror, and increasingly direct appeals to racially, ethnically, culturally, and religiously pure identities. Labels. Necroliberal and weaponizing these labels. Necroliberal governance requires both the deeper institutionalization of corruption in the political and financial systems, and through it even more wealth siphoned to what is colloquially termed the 1%. It's less than 1%. The top 25 billionaires added $1 trillion to their net worth last year. As the rise in inequality, poverty, societal pathologies, debt, disease, and addiction, and environmental degradation led more liberal neoliberals to question the morality and even viability of the system. The loss of their support was compensated for by a sharp rightward ideological turn towards overt racial and cultural politics among white conservative evangelicals, the traditional beneficiaries of American capitalism, who, not surprisingly, support the kind of political protection rackets that once again dominate conservative-led political systems. They're trying to criminalize protesting, make it felonies if you block pipeline construction, shit like that. Neoliberalism required a smoothly integrated world system. How much more of this is? Oh no, this is the last section. Neoliberalism required a smoothly integrated world system and even a growing middle class to function efficiently. Neoliberalism demanded increased securitization, remilitarization, and racketization of America's political economy to function. What I term necrocapitalism comprises the unprecedented racialized, racketized, militarized, revanchist, and necropolitical form of capitalism and its attendant politics in the era of Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Bashar al-Assad, Jair Bolsonaro, Viktor Orban, Rodrigo Duterte, and company. You left out Bibi Netanyahu. In this regard, boy, did he go off on the ICC. It's just pathetic. He looked like a cartoon. In this regard, it is hard to imagine a virus being more fortuitously designed to support hyper-racialized necrocapitalism than the novel coronavirus. Well, they engineered it this way. With the Native Americans are dying at twice the rate of whites. With racial and economic disparities seeming written into its genetic code, the global pandemic is not only leading to a restructuring of the world economy along more nationalist lines, but it is also accelerating trends toward automation that could displace and render permanently superfluous upwards of 1/3 of U.S. workers within a decade. While a disproportionate share of the 21st century lumpen proletariat will be black and brown, millions of white Americans will suffer as well. Because of this, the coronavirus pandemic might ultimately mark an historical tipping point in racial capitalism a la Americaine. Capitalism has always worked by dividing people, culturally and politically as much as economically, and giving a large enough segment of non-elites enough extra financial and psychological wage to warrant their continued support. Happy slaves. But today, it is not just African Americans and other permanently marginalized groups who no longer have faith in the system. White America has lost faith as well. For a while, it seemed that President Trump could maintain the false consciousness of a system working for them by harshly demonizing, excluding, and repressing everyone else. But the perfect storm of a pandemic, economic, and racial crisis has shown that neither the emperor nor capitalism have many, if any, clothes left. The necrocapitalist mutation of capitalism is like a virus that has become too lethal to continue reproducing itself in the host community. The utterly cutthroat nature of capitalism today and the social, political, economic, and environmental devastation it is producing are quickly stripping away the ideological veneer of whiteness, giving more and more of its previously self esteemed beneficiaries their first glimpse of reality that no amount of racial privilege can keep at bay. This is a funny thing about the quantum physics of this planet. And the coronavirus is expressing that physics to everybody, that it's the utterly cutthroat, blah, blah, whiteness, no, blah. The further this vision spreads, the more Black lives will matter to everyone, and the greater the chance that a truly just and equitable America can finally be founded. And it's not just Black lives, excuse me, but Native lives have mattered longer. They were here first. This is their land. There are no Native billionaires, okay? And I think on that note, I'm going to end. And thank you for watching, and see you next time. Happy day, bye.